Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's Voice to the World. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Blinken urges Saudi, China and Turkey to deter Iran from attack on Israel. Russia, Germany and the UK also call for restraint in Middle East. Iran says it will not act hastily. Russia's President Vladimir Putin mocks a scheduled round of Ukraine peace talks in Switzerland. Warns Moscow will not accept any enforced peace plans. Says aborted peace deal could be the basis for new negotiations. Political parties intensify their campaigns ahead of Indian elections. PM Modi holds a rally in Rajasthan, cautions people of opposition's lies. Congress's Rahul Gandhi holds rallies in South India's Tamil Nadu today. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has engaged in talks with his Turkish, Chinese and Saudi Arabian counterparts amid concerns that Iran will strike Israel in retaliation for a strike in Damascus. During the talks, the US has expressed its concern towards the tension in West Asia and made clear that escalation in the region is not in anyone's interest.
I don't have any calls to announce, but we have been engaged in a series of contacts, not just at his level, but at other levels too, to talk to foreign counterparts to send this very clear message to Iran that they should not escalate this conflict. We continue to be concerned about the risk of escalation in the Middle East, something we have been working to mitigate and contain since the attacks of October 7th, and specifically about the threats made in recent days by Iran against the state of Israel and the Israeli people.
And amid the growing tensions in the Middle East, Russia, Germany and Britain have called for restraint from all sides. Russia urged its citizens to avoid travel to the Middle East, especially to Israel, Lebanon and the Palestinian territories. Meanwhile, German airline Lufthansa extended its suspension of flights to Tehran. France, on the other hand, advised its citizens not to travel to Iran, Lebanon, Israel and the Palestinian territories. This follows Israel's declaration of preparedness to address security threats as the region braces for a potential Iranian attack. The United States said on Thursday it has restricted its employees in Israel and their family members from personal travel outside the greater Tel Aviv, Jerusalem and Be'er-Sheva areas until further notice. This advisory from Washington comes amid Iran's threats to retaliate against Israel. Iran has vowed revenge for the April 1st airstrikes on its embassy compound in Damascus, urging US Embassy to issue the said security alert on its website. Report says 2 Palestinians were killed by Israeli forces early Friday morning in the Northwest Bank. Northern West Bank, in fact, and the Palestinian sources say one of the deceased has been identified as a Hamas militant. In a separate incident, another Palestinian was killed in an Israeli military operation in Al-Farah camp south of Tubas. Violence in the West Bank escalated since the Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza began in October. While the UN Security Council has failed to reach consensus on the Palestinians' bid for full UN membership, aiming for international recognition of their statehood, Palestinians have lobbied for full UN membership for years. Palestine currently holds observer status at the world body since 2012. Any request to become a UN member state must first pass through the Security Council, where Israel's ally, the United States, wields a veto and then be endorsed by the General Assembly. And Japan's Kishida addressed the US Congress after US President Joe Biden hosted him and Philippines President for a trilateral. Long simmering tensions between China and its neighbors took center stage at the meet, where the leaders pushed back on Beijing's stepped-up pressure on Manila in the disputed South China Sea.
The United States defense commitments to Japan and to the Philippines are ironclad. They're ironclad. As I've said before, any attack on Philippine aircraft, vessels, or armed forces in the South China Sea would invoke our Mutual Defense Treaty.
We seek to identify ways of growing our economies and making them more resilient climate-proofing our cities and our societies, sustaining our development progress, and forging a peaceful world for the next generation.
In order to secure peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific, I hope to reaffirm our intention to further strengthen trilateral cooperation and to present the specific way forward through today's meeting.
Well, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said on Friday that Beijing was firmly opposed to the manipulation of bloc politics by the US, Japan and the Philippines and rejected remarks made by Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and US President Joe Biden regarding China's actions in the South China Sea. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said on Friday that the statement issued by the three countries on China's actions in the South China Sea, which they described as dangerous and aggressive, had deviated from the basic facts. Mao added that China rejected Kishida's remarks in his speech to the US Congress in which he called China the biggest strategic challenge to the world.
China is firmly opposed to the manipulation of bloc politics by the countries concerned, to any practice that provokes or intensifies conflicts to the detriment of the strategic security and interests of other countries, and to the establishment of closed and exclusive small circles in the region. To see whether the US, Japan, Philippines summit and trilateral cooperation is targeted at China, look at the joint statement issued by the three parties. Black and white is very clear. What is this if not a willful smear campaign against China?
And South Korea, Japan and the United States staged long-planned joint naval exercises involving an American aircraft carrier to ensure readiness against nuclear and missile threats from North Korea. The two-day drills held in international waters brought together the USS Theodore Roosevelt and the destroyers Howard, Russell and Daniel Inouye. The South Korean Navy said that during the training, a multi-year joint exercise plan was set up after last year's three-way summit. North Korea has been accelerating weapons development, and leader Kim Jong-un said on Wednesday that now was the time to be more prepared for war than ever. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, is concerned about the possibility of an organized attack in the United States similar to the one that killed scores of people at a Russian concert hall last month. FBI director told the House of Representatives panel on Thursday that the attack might be carried out by an individual or small group inspired by the conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. The March 22nd attack on a concert hall in Moscow suburb killed at least 144 people, the deadliest in Russia in 20 years. A branch of the Islamic State terrorist group claimed responsibility, but Russian President Vladimir Putin, without citing evidence, has sought to blame Ukraine. Well, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will visit Arizona today, just days after state's top court reinstated a law from 1864 criminalizing and banning abortions in nearly all circumstances. Abortion has become a central issue in the 2024 elections, and as Tony Waterman explains, the Biden administration is wasting no time in politically capitalizing on this latest extreme ban and laying the blame at Donald Trump's feet.
This trip to Arizona wasn't even on the vice president's schedule late last week, and now it is an official campaign event headlined as a fight for reproductive freedoms. Kamala Harris is visiting Tucson, which is Arizona's second largest city, and while there, she is expected to blast this state Supreme Court decision and blame former President Donald Trump, who appointed the conservative justices to the U.S. Supreme Court that overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago, returning abortion access to the states. This 160-year-old law in Arizona, which existed before women had the right to vote and before Arizona was even a state, will be one of the most extreme abortion laws when it is reinstated in about 2 weeks. Doctors will face up to 5 years in prison if they perform an abortion. The only exception is to save the life of the mother, but there are no clear guidelines on what constitutes a medical emergency. And in other states with similar bans, doctors have refused to perform the procedure for fear of breaking the law. And in some cases, that has jeopardized the lives of women. Friday's trip to Arizona will be Harris's second in the span of a month, which is an indication of just how important this state is going to be in the 2024 elections. Out of all the battleground states, Joe Biden won Arizona by the thinnest margin in 2020, and current polls show him trailing behind his Republican rival, Donald Trump. Polls, though, also show that abortion is a top issue for voters, the vast majority of which support abortion access. So Democrats are hoping that this latest ban will galvanize voters, and Kamala Harris's trip is all about doing just that. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Thursday mocked a scheduled round of Ukraine peace talks in Switzerland, warning that Moscow will not accept any enforced plans that ignore its interests. Kremlin said that an aborted 2022 peace deal between Russia and Ukraine could be the basis for new negotiations, but there is no sign that Kyiv is ready for such talks. Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly said that Russia and Ukraine were on the verge of agreeing a deal to end hostilities at talks in Istanbul in April 2022, but that agreement was sabotaged. And Russia on Friday stated that its air defense forces shot down 5 Ukrainian drones. 4 drones were destroyed over Russia's Rostov region and 1 over Belgorod region. Ukraine made an overnight attack on targets in different regions inside Russia. Well, DD India's Dasha Chernashova gives us updates from Moscow.
Well, the statements coming from Moscow suggest that those are the attacks with 2 reasons. The first one is in response to the Ukrainian attacks against the oil refineries inside Russia that Moscow said it would not leave unanswered. So here is this response by the Russian Federation. The second reason that was explained by the President Vladimir Putin on Thursday is that Moscow is still demilitarizing Ukraine, and it is part of the wider process of demilitarization, which was described as one of the goals of Russia's so-called special military operation in Ukraine. So Moscow insists that it is striking the energy facilities of Ukraine as part of its operation to prevent the Ukrainian military from their capacity to produce and to restore the military equipment that is later used to attack Russia or the Russian soldiers on the battlefield. The Russian president also noted that Russia was refraining from the attacks against the energy facilities of Ukraine throughout winter, and that was done for the humanitarian purposes, with Moscow saying that it didn't want to inflict significant damage on the civilians, and with Moscow constantly saying that what it is doing in Ukraine is related only to the military complex of Ukraine. It is not targeting the civilian population. In the meeting that President Vladimir Putin held with his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko in Moscow on Thursday, the issue of peace negotiations was touched upon, with the two saying that the Istanbul agreements that were reached in spring 2022 could be taken as the basis for further talks rather than any peace plan proposed by the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. But obviously those arrangements are now outdated.
All right, Britain's Defence Ministry on Friday announced that it plans to equip warships with lasers capable of efficiently targeting and disabling drones by 2027. This initiative is part of broader reforms aimed at expediting the integration of advanced technologies into military operations. Britain's Ministry of Defence said that lasers could fire at any target visible in the air at the cost of around £10 a shot. All right, and staying with Europe, Britain's tepid economy is on course to exit a shallow recession after output grew for a second month in a row in February, and January's reading was revised higher. According to official data, gross domestic product expanded by 0.1% in monthly terms in February, as expected in Reuters' poll of economists. January's reading was revised to show growth of 0.3%, up from 0.2% earlier. The data confirmed Britain's economy started 2024 on a stronger footing, with the 3-month average growing rate rising to 0.2% in February from 0 in January, the highest such reading since August. The figures are also likely to reinforce the Bank of England's cautious tone around the prospects for interest rate cuts, with the economy on track to slightly exceed the central bank's expectation for a 0.1% expansion in the first quarter. While shifting focus to Asia Pacific, Myanmar citizens queued at border crossings to flee to Thailand early on Friday, a day after Myanmar witnessed brutal attacks that has been growing in strength. Daily, more than 4,000 residents on Myanmar's border have fled to neighboring Thailand, fearing for their safety after hearing the sound of aerial bombing. Thai Foreign Minister Bahida Nukara is scheduled to visit Mae Sot from Myawaddy later on Friday to assess the situation. While Russia and Kazakhstan continue to battle record floods as rivers rise further, the village of Kamenskoye in Russia's Kurgan region was being evacuated on Friday morning after the water level there rose 1.4 meters overnight. Kamenskoye is a settlement along the Tobol River, which also flows through the regional center Kurgan, a city of 300,000 people. The city of Orenburg, water levels crossed 11 meters on Friday. Similar scenes are being witnessed across northern Kazakhstan. A state of emergency remained in effect in 8 affected regions of the country, evacuating almost 98,000 people. Emergency workers have so far removed 8.8 million cubic meters of water from flooded areas. The deluge of meltwater has forced over 120,000 people from their homes in Russia's Ural Mountains, Siberia and Kazakhstan. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Election campaign heats up in India. Moody's maintains the outlook for the government of India to be stable. After around 3 decades, an Indian movie would play at the upcoming 77th Cannes Film Festival.
Opposition stuns Erdogan with historic victory in Turkish local poll. Will the defeat force Erdogan to reset his foreign policy? Will artificial intelligence enslave humans? And crypto king Sam Bankman-Fried will grow old in jail, so what lessons should we learn from his conviction? Watch Connecting the Dots to get the full picture every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. Let's now get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. The Election Commission of India on Friday issued the notification for the third phase of voting for the upcoming parliamentary elections in the country. Nomination filing started after the notification was issued by the Election Commission. The third phase of voting will take place on May 7th. And in the third phase, voting will be held for 94 parliamentary constituencies in 12 states, union territories. Starting from today, the last day for filing nomination for the third phase of elections is April 19. The seats for which voting is to be held in the third phase include Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Goa, Gujarat, Jammu and Kashmir and others. Also, there will be a separate notification for the adjourned poll in Madhya Pradesh, Betul. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a public gathering in Barmed city in northern state of Rajasthan. Attending the rally, PM Modi was felicitated by party members on the stage. PM is in Rajasthan to support the BJP candidates. He will next visit Dausa city. Voting will be held in 2 phases in Rajasthan. Election season is at its peak in India, with parties organizing multiple public meetings as the first phase of voting is slated for 19th of this month. In order to garner support for the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held rally in Jammu and Kashmir's Udhampur. Addressing the gathering, PM said that his government fulfilled promise of ending long sufferings of people of Jammu and Kashmir.
सत्ता के लिए इन्होंने जम्मू कश्मीर में 370 की ऐसी दीवार बना दी थी, आपके आशीर्वाद से मोदी ने 370 की दीवार गिरा दी। मैं चुनौती देता हूं, हिंदुस्तान की कोई पॉलिटिकल पार्टी हिम्मत करके आ जाए, विशेष करके मैं कांग्रेस को चुनौती देता हूं, वो घोषणा करे वो 370 को वापस लाएंगे, ये देश उनका मुंह तक देखने को तैयार नहीं होगा।
Well, with the Lok Sabha elections nearing, political parties are ramping up their efforts to woo voters, with leaders actively engaging with the public to garner support. Senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah held rally in Uttar Pradesh's Muradabad. During his address, Shah called Uttar Pradesh the major reason behind BJP's win in 2014 and 2019 general elections.
एक स्मृति चिन्ह 2014 और 19 दोनों में प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी बने, उसका सबसे बड़ा कारण मेरा उत्तर प्रदेश है। सबसे बड़ा कारण उत्तर प्रदेश है। 2014 में 73 सीटें और 19 में 65 सीटें दी, और इसी के कारण मोदी जी पूर्ण बहुमत से प्रधानमंत्री बने। मगर इस बार तीसरी बार बनाना है, ना 73 चलेगी ना 65 चलेगी, इस बार 80 की 80 सीटें नरेंद्र मोदी की झोली में जा।
And the opposition parties are also going all out to woo the voters. Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav held his first election rally in Pilibhit district in northern state of Uttar Pradesh. Akhilesh is scheduled to address rallies in Nagina and Bijnor. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge will hold election rallies in Kalaburagi and Bidar in his home state Karnataka to seek support for its candidates, while Rahul Gandhi will attend a public meeting in Tamil Nadu on Friday. Bahujan Samaj Party leader Mayawati will also campaign in Uttarakhand's Haridwar. Addressing a public rally on Thursday, Mayawati accused Congress of not implementing public welfare schemes during its government before 2014. Well, as the election preparedness gaining momentum, a significant deployment of security personnel in Marwa and Warwan areas of Kishtwar district in Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday, jointly by District Election Office and Indian Air Force. In a unique voter awareness initiative, scuba divers in Chennai dove into sea, enacting the voting process 60 feet underwater. On Friday, the Ministry of External Affairs of India convened its weekly press briefing, and during the briefing, the official spokesperson addressed the press regarding the deteriorating security situation in Myanmar, emphasizing that it remains precarious and continues to worsen.
Regarding Myanmar, the security situation in Myanmar remains precarious and deteriorating. You've heard about the fighting that is going on, specifically in Rakhine State and other areas. We had issued some time back an advisory for our nationals so that they can take due care, and we want them to be safe, as also regarding Indians who are traveling to Myanmar, so that they can observe proper safety protocols and take care of themselves, while we are there to take care of them, as in the embassy is there to take care of them. We've also relocated our staff from Sitwe consulate to Yangon. So that is where the situation lies.
All right, rating agency Moody's maintained the outlook for the Government of India to be stable. The long-term and short-term ratings of the Government of India are pegged at Baa3 and P3. Moody's noted India's balances its large and diversified economy with high growth potential. It also asserted that India benefited from infrastructure development, digitalization, and the rehabilitation of the financial system. Following a series of relatively strong growth numbers in the first 3 quarters of the financial year 2023-24, Moody's revised India's real GDP growth projection to 8% for the full year. The agency expects economic growth to be sustained at well above 6% over the next 2 fiscal years. After a long wait of around 3 decades, an Indian movie would play at the upcoming 77th Cannes Film Festival. Writer-director Payal Kapadia's All We Imagine as Light will premiere in the competition section. Kapadia had previously won the Golden Eye Award for Best Documentary at the 2021 Cannes Film Festival for her documentary A Night of Knowing Nothing, a joint production of India and France. The movie will be competing against Iranian filmmaker Ali Abbasi's The Apprentice, Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, and Yorgos Lanthimos' Kind of Kindness. And all right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.